Hi, welcome to the Like Father, Like Daughter podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mariana.
Today we have a special guest with us, and his name is
John Stewart.
Hey, John. Yes, John's joining us today, so he's our special guest. Today's episode is called What About Wednesday? We're going to talk about the whole series of season 1 of the Wednesday series. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm not going to do a synopsis like I mentioned in our pre-meetings, so we're just going to kind of talk about different things we liked about the show. But just overall, Wednesday was a kind of like a continuation of the Addams Family show, like where Wednesday's in high school, she gets kicked out of her current school and has to go to Nevermore Academy. Lots of mayhem, murder, mystery, and even relationships happen. So it was a pretty good show overall. I'll say that I was very surprised I liked it. So I could use English, that would work. I was very surprised that I liked it. I didn't think I would, but then Ariana kind of urged me to watch it and said, oh, I think you'll like it. So when I watched it, I thought it was really quite entertaining. The whole Wednesday dance thing went viral for a while. I think it still is a little bit viral on TikTok. So I'm not really sure why that went viral, but okay, so whatever. I mean, I guess it was cool. But, so let's just start with things that we liked about the show. So let's start with our guest, John. John, what did you like about Wednesday?
Well, it depends on what aspect we're in reference to. If we're talking about the generality of the show, I'd say as somebody who's new to the entire franchise of the Addams Family, I would say that Wednesday is a really good way to get into the show because it kind of gives you a taste of the family, showing one aspect of the character that hasn't really been touched on too much from what I know of beforehand in the series, whereas it kind of also gives you some background that isn't also mentioned beforehand in the series.
Wednesday was always kind of in the show. So the TV series, Wednesday was always kind of a peripheral character. Mm-hmm. It really did focus on, it focused on Gomez and Morticia for the most part, and sometimes Lurch. Mm-hmm. And then, Uncle Fester, those characters. Wednesday was a bit peripheral, right? Kind of her and Pugsley were kind of like side characters, every once in a while they centered on them, but you didn't know much about Wednesday until the movies came out. Yeah. And then when the Addams Family movies came out, Wednesday was a little more prominent in those. So yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm.
If we're talking on specifics of the show, I think the one thing I really liked is it kind of it showed kind of this evolution of this heartless entity, this utter void of emotion, going into the utter void of emotion, also known as high school. And it kind of shows how maybe not every void is as empty as we thought. And then I realized by the end, Jenna Ortega, or Wednesday, still is pretty much a void, but maybe there's a few colors dancing around here and there, even though she may be allergic to them.
Very good. Cool. Ariana, what did you like about the show?
Well, considering the fact that I have had I didn't know anything about the Addams Family, and all I had known was I heard about it. I haven't watched anything.
Because you and I used to sing the song.
I remember that.
Remember we used to
I
sing.
remember the song.
There we go. Okay.
And I remember knowing that was from the Addams Family, but I'd never watched anything about it. So I really thought I would be really confused during the show. But even people who haven't seen it can still understand what it's about who it's about without watching anything other than that. I also really liked the character plot twists.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty cool. Because for a while I was wondering who was the what's the creature's name
Hyde.
called? The Hyde, yeah.
The Hyde, yeah.
Because I genuinely didn't know who it was for a while, and then I think after a while I had a few guesses and I kind of figured it out, but that's mostly because I'm in film.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they did really good on that one, and yeah.
So here's what I liked. I've had a lot of exposure to the Addams Family. Obviously, it was in reruns when I was a kid. I watched it once a week at least, because it was syndicated. I liked a lot of the callbacks. So, like when they found the secret society, someone help me. What was their?
Had something to do with like ravens.
Yeah, the Raven something. And then the way to get into the Raven, the way to open the door was to snap the fingers, right?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Oh,
that to me was a really good callback because I mean they weren't obviously they avoided a lot of the tropes that they could have used just to make this thing just like the Addams Family, which I appreciated. So they did those callbacks, right? I really liked Thing. Thing was a character.
Thing was so awesome.
I even I know that this is just TV today, but I even like the fact that Finn gives you the finger. I just think there's an emotion behind that I really liked. While not necessarily appropriate, it was still funny, right? I liked the development of Wednesday. I liked that we started, like John had mentioned earlier, we started out with this void, right? It's just a shell of a human being. Like you're like, how can anybody be so black and white and so cold and callous, right? But at the end, you get to see that she actually has, she has feelings. They're just super suppressed, right? Mm-hmm. And they start to kind of surface and bubble up a little bit, which I kind of appreciated that. I liked the plot twists, like you said. And so, just kind of like the whole story, while I wasn't sure where it was going, which I appreciate because I don't like predictability very much in the shows that I watch. So yeah, it was really good. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on to things we didn't like. Ariana, why don't you start with what you didn't like about the show?
Some parts just seemed a little out of place, I feel like. Some scenes could have been, because I think in a film mind, I'm like, that wasn't really necessary. You didn't really have to put that in there.
Oh, yeah. There was some on-the-nose stuff.
So, I guess that was kind of something that it wasn't very big, and it would be only something that I or John or you guys could notice. Mm-hmm. But it was a little thing. Otherwise, there wasn't really anything that I was nitpicking about the show. But slightly off topic, back to what you were saying earlier about the snapping to get into the doors thing to open. Apparently Jenna Ortega told the director she wouldn't play the part unless they added that in.
Really?
And that's why they added it in.
That's cool.
So, and also Thing was, people thought it was like just CGI. It was actually a guy in an entire blue suit. And so that's why he has so much emotion behind his hand, because it's a literal guy who was acting
I did not
with his
know.
hand.
I did assume it was all CGI. CGI. Did I just say CGI? Yeah, we're tired. We're doing this podcast on a little sleep, just FYI. And one of us just woke up. So, no, CGI, sorry. Yeah, I did not know that. That's actually, that explains a lot why it looks so real.
Yeah.
And didn't really, and that's actually a good point, because I think that would have pulled you out of the reality of it, right? I mean, CGI is still good today, but you can still
you can tell.
Yeah.
You can still tell. And so that's a good point. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. John, what didn't you like about it?
This is going to be a little bit unpopular, but when I was watching through the series, I mean, for context, I got through the entire series within a matter of,
like a day.
less than that, maybe 12 hours total.
So John
Yeah.
binge watched it so he could be on this podcast. FYI.
Yeah, pretty much. When I was watching through the series, even though I was half awake at certain moments, one thing I always noticed was with Edith Sinclair. I get where she's supposed to be kind of like the stereotypical, prepubescent teenage girl who's, the definition of high school spirit personified. But there were just some times that it felt like it was just a little too much.
Like pushed almost.
It felt there were moments that felt very, very pushed, and it kind of took me a little bit out of the series just for a split moment. The only other thing that I may have a criticism on is it was a little jarring with the amount of visions, I think is what they were called, where she'd like shoot her head up and
Oh yeah.
it was a little jarring how often that would happen and how on the nose it would be like she'd shoot her head up and then she'd just order a coffee like nothing happened because, I don't know, her vision was just about, if I get the matcha green latte, I'm going to have gas and I probably shouldn't do that. So I'll just do a double shot of espresso. I don't know, just sometimes it felt a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think maybe if it was like the one thing she always needed and only came when she never needed it, that I feel would be a bit more, albeit, what's the word, cliche, but it would at least give it a little more of a rivet to the story. Like, come on, now would be a perfect time for it, which they did, especially with, I think her name was Missy Adams, at the end there with the soul bond. I realized that was kind of that one moment where it's like, this is the one time you need it and you didn't get it. Now you're dead. Too bad. Whoop. I don't know. It felt like there were a lot of unnecessary ones that were put in, but that's just me.
Okay, cool. What I didn't like about it, the things that they're kind of nitpicky, but I agree with most of what you guys said, right? So it kind of took a little bit of what I didn't like about it. The other thing I didn't really like was the portrayal of Gomez Adams.
Oh yeah.
I just can't buy, what's his face? What's his name?
Luis Guzman?
Yeah, Luis Guzman, right? Oddly enough, he's not in the top cast list in IMDb. So, suppose you'll sue. So anyway, I could totally see Catherine Zeta-Jones, perfect for Morticia. It was almost like it was the old Morticia Adams, right?
Yeah.
But Guzman he's not the original Gomez, which was played by John. Oh boy, that's an old. John, look that up for me.
Are you talking about from the original TV series?
Original TV series, yeah. That was John Aston. Was the original Gomez.
Dang.
Yeah, see, look at that. Look at me, all that trivia that I could use on Jeopardy, and I'm not making money right now. Yeah, John Aston was the original Gomez Adams in the TV series, and it just Luis Guzman, not who I would have portrayed for. I get it because the Adams families they are kind of given that more Mexican South American heritage. Totally cool, totally odd. That's awesome, but just didn't feel like it matched the character that I was expecting.
Wasn't quite the right fit.
Wasn't quite the right fit for me. The other things I didn't really like about it were, I'm trying to remember now. I agree with the Enid character, just a little bit too much, but and then some of the other stuff fell flat. The other thing, and one thing I didn't mention that I didn't before that I did like, so I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I liked that they put in Christina Ricci.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was in the original movies,
Yep.
right? And so she plays a character here. That was totally awesome. So that was kind of a nice callback too. Anyway, okay, so now just kind of going over a couple things, right? John has acting experience, singing experience, movie experience. I have a little bit of acting and movie experience. Ariana's in a lot of back-end production stuff. So we're going to talk now about just kind of how we felt about the movie overall from those kind of perspectives. So, and then this is just more free for all. So, like, just from a set and effects and stuff like that, did you guys like what you saw? Was it good? Was there anything that, like Ariana already kind of touched on, the whole thing being an actual person in a complete blue suit, which I think is actually good from a production standpoint, right? I mean, that kind of gives it, like you said, allows the hand to give emotion versus CGI. I think the sets were very, I'm looking at you, Ariana, because I know you noticed this, right? But the Wednesday's room with Enid.
Oh yeah,
the whole
split
down the middle was totally cool, right? I mean, it's just it really made it stand out. Like, this is my side, this is your side. You're full of color. I'm black and white. I thought that was a really good choice, right?
Yeah.
I think even just some of the scenes in the society, the Raven Society or whatever, darker, more kind of chanting, kind of cultish, like, those were all good.
Yeah.
What else? Someone throw some other stuff about set design out there.
One thing that I really noticed amongst Nevermore is that they always kind of stick to this spooky kind of feel, which obviously, it's an Addams Family series. I don't know if this is just me, but it felt a little on the nose that they gave Wednesday the one room that just screams like they're spooky and they're kooky.
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, obviously it fit the situation really well. I'm just thinking, in real life high school dorms, what are the chances of you getting like the perfect room? I don't know. Maybe it was set up. Maybe Gomez Adams was pulling some strings and was like, "Hey, I kind of need to make sure that my daughter has the best room. I'll pay for it." Like, I don't know. But in regards to the actual area where Nevermore took place, I thoroughly loved the set design that they set up, especially with the this one's gonna be a little bit hated, but I thoroughly enjoyed the small town. I forget what it was called.
Oh, the little.
What was it? Pilgrimage?
Yes.
Oh, Pilgrim Town, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it was named. I have some family out in a town middle of nowhere, so it kind of made me feel a little at home when I just see the one-way street in this little cafe where really pretty much everybody knows everybody. The other thing I really enjoyed was Crackstone's tomb. That just gave me chills down my spine when I saw it.
Remind me of that.
Joseph Crackstone, the antagonist of the series, the dude who came back to life.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Something that I personally thought wasn't really realistic was that Wednesday, and I get why they did this, but Wednesday's like school uniform was black and gray or whatever, opposed to everyone else's being black and blue. And I don't think that's realistic that they would specifically give that to her because her style is different.
Actually, that is explained in the series why it's like that. So if you pay attention to the dialogue, I missed this the first time I listened to the episode. I'm like, why is her suit black? So I played back about 15 minutes, and I listened very carefully. She's allergic to color.
That's right.
Like, literally?
She is allergic to color. She breaks out in hives, I believe goes into anaphylaxis, and actually has to be intubated.
Oh my gosh.
That's why, yeah.
Something about her eating an orange when she was a baby.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Something like that. But she's actually allergic to colors.
So that's how they explain that, yeah.
Interesting.
I guess it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe not. Okay, so let's move on to the acting. Okay. I always give everyone the benefit of the doubt when it comes to acting, being that I'm new, and therefore really don't feel like I can judge everyone's acting. But sometimes there are certain shows that I watch where I'm like, or I, maybe they were told to play it that way, but but that's not how I would have done it. Go ahead, Ariana. You want to say something? I know you're gonna go right. I know exactly where you're going. Maybe not.
Discovery.
Discovery, yes. Okay, we always go back to Star Trek Discovery. So, anyway, so the acting, I think, again, I'm going to go back to Luis Guzman. He's a okay actor, right? I mean, when he's in a role he's made for, he's awesome. In this role, just not sure that this, again, it kind of...
It wasn't like per se cut out for it.
It just wasn't cut out for it. Jenna Ortega
Perfect.
rocked Wednesday out of the park. I mean, just really, this is exactly what I think the series needed. They needed this kind of person. I think that Catherine Zeta-Jones was awesome. I even think that when Gwendolyn Christie, who played the headmaster, right?
Yeah.
I've only seen her in Game of Thrones, and then she was in Star Wars, whichever one it was. She played Captain Phasma, and we didn't really get to see much of her there. This was, I think, was a pretty decent role for her. I think she did pretty well with that. It was good to see her in a stretch role like this. But overall, I think everyone, even the character that did Enid, like you said, it was a little bit overplayed, but I think she did pretty well. Just kind of being that, not necessarily an antagonist to Wednesday, but kind of an antagonist to Wednesday, just because she's cheerful, colorful, bright. Wants to pull Wednesday into all the social events. And Wednesday wants nothing to do with it at first.
I believe the name of a character like that, specifically in the case of Enid Sinclair, I believe is what's called a stagnant foil.
A stagnant foil.
I could be wrong about the stagnant part, but I do believe she is what would be considered a foil. Not per se an antagonist, but somebody who contrasts.
A foil. Okay,
yeah, a foil
no,
for
that's right. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, thank you. Anything else on the acting side of things?
I mean, obviously, Jenna Ortega was great. I think everyone was pretty good. I can't really pinpoint something that was just really... I didn't like this at all. Other than maybe... And I think this isn't acting. I think this is character flaw. Where, the character is written this way. With Enid, sometimes she was just too much to the point where it's kind of unrealistic. I feel like. But her acting was great, especially with the conflict with her mom and stuff. So, yeah.
Cool.
In regards to acting, I can be a little nitpicky, and I realize that. One thing I always noticed, and I don't think many people would really care, considering that, Ariana, you and I are our generation, we're the same generation. One thing you've probably noticed is, with our generation, most people who are attracted to kind of what I like to call the YouTube sad boy look, also known as Wilbur Soot, for those of you who know who that is. Hunter Duhan, also known as Tyler Galpin in the series, his character almost seemed like, when he really was supposed to be like genuinely clueless in like the script, and in areas where he's like, I don't know. It almost seemed like he was purposely faking it. He almost seemed like it was like that comedic level of unknowingness, if you will. There were other times where it's like, okay, he's supposed to be fake oblivious, but there were times where I feel like, for someone who would be genuinely oblivious, he just did not seem to catch the bill on that one. I also agree with Luis Guzman. The acting, he's a good actor. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know if per se Gomez was his best role. Fun fact with the Addams Family, if I remember correctly from the original comic strips and the original comic panels, Gomez is supposed to be some semblance of, I believe, Spanish, if I remember correctly. So I'd say the actual like ethnicities for each member of the family, they hit on the head of the nail pretty darn hard. I agree with you. I don't know if I would have done Luis Guzman. There was another actor a little while ago from, I believe it was a Tim Burton version of the Addams Family. I forget his name, but if I had a choice, I'd probably go with him for our modern equivalent.
I would have chosen Antonio Banderas.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
I mean, if you look at the old Addams Family, John Aston, who was very suave, and I mean, he was 1960s suave.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, I would have chosen Antonio Banderas for this role.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see it. I think the reason they probably went with Luis Guzman was they were going off of the original design of the Adams Family from the original comic strip, which shows Gomez Adams,
More portly.
a rather portly gentleman, with a little bit of a pug nose, a little bit of a beaten up nose, and I think that looks wise he fits the bill pretty closely, but when it comes to the acting, like the actual quality of acting, I just don't know if that was quite his best role.
Yep. Right. Oh, you know what we've actually gone over or haven't? Uncle Fester. Which was played by Fred Armisen.
I was surprised to see him in the series.
Yep, me too.
Same. Even though I don't know who he is, but I was like, oh, it's a man.
Yeah, Uncle Fester was awesome.
It's Uncle Fester Wednesday. The one time you see the void smile back, literally.
Yep. and then the whole thing about Uncle Fester, he's on the lam pretty much. He's on the, he's like,
Yeah.
Just basically, he's kind of got all these crimes underneath his belt, which is typical Uncle Fester stuff.
Yeah.
The one character that is missing, I think they referenced him, but is Thing.
Oh.
I mean, not Thing, but
Cousin It.
Cousin It.
Yep.
I think they referenced Cousin It. I mean, I don't think Ariana knows who Cousin It is.
Nope.
Cousin It is I don't know if it's a person or what.
I believe it's referenced in one of the animated series. I forget which one it was, or not the animated series, the animated movie that they did not too long ago that got like some of the worst ratings ever for the Addams Family franchise. If I remember correctly, I think it's referenced that the hair just goes down to the root, but they don't reference what the root is quite grabbing.
Yeah.
So I'm not completely sure what Cousin It is, but I think that's part of the character.
I think they could have thrown Cousin. I mean,
I
honestly, how hard would that have been, right?
I would have loved to see Cousin It, because imagine you could just get a little fur ball crawling under the door. That could have been a great trope, other than just
exactly
a thing crawling around. Which I don't know if you've heard this, but there's quite a little bit of controversy as to what Thing is.
Oh, I did hear this. What is Thing? Is Thing a actual being?
Mm-hmm.
Is Thing a kind of a zombie hand? Is Thing conscious? Obviously, Thing is aware.
Yeah.
So
And like I don't understand how he hears, but I just
you don't.
I
you
just
don't
deal
have,
with it.
You don't know. In the old show, Thing was always in a box.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just basically an actor underneath the table in a box doing hand things and out of the box.
Yeah.
And would close the box. That's all you ever saw of Thing. So, even in the movies from a long time ago, having Thing, walk around, most of that was CGI.
Yeah.
Just having Thing do things. That's hard to say. Okay, so
Having things.
So, but just it's way better to kind of get Thing outside the box, as it were, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty cool. But I would have liked to have seen Cousin It in this, and I would like to have seen a little more Lurch.
Oh yeah, because he was just briefly brought on.
Well, I mean, I don't even think he had a word. I
No.
mean, and even in the old Addams Family shows, it was always "you rang,"
Yeah.
and I mean, just I would have liked to have seen some more of Lurch. But okay, what else can we talk about?
With Lurch, there was a Easter egg of some sort where at the beginning of the series you see him driving and he looks like he's dead in the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
like they're like white or whatever. I don't know. And at the end of the series his eyes are normal and people are like, is this a flaw or is this intentional?
Well, I mean, considering Lurch is quite literally Frankenstein's monster, there's a good chance one of the eyes just went through sepsis. You gotta replace it. You gotta do what you gotta do to keep your family members alive.
That's
And
right.
there's also some controversy in regarding to Thing and Lurch. I've heard references of Thing possibly being Lurch's mom. and Lurch's lover. I will say no more.
The second one,
I don't
the
like either of
second
those
one
options.
makes me not want to talk about it.
Yeah.
The first one was weird. That would be weird.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
also,
like no connection
The
for it.
thing's hand is obviously a male hand.
Yeah.
That
It's
would make
obviously male
sense.
hand. I like in this one that they gave. Oh, remember when? Here's something I want to recap. When Thing got thrown against the wall and when the nail went through Thing.
Yeah.
Or
This knife.
was it the knife?
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
was a
it was
knife.
You
I
almost cried.
I did cry. What are you
You
talking
did cry.
about?
I
You
did
cried
cry as
over
well.
a dead hand.
It was. Listen. He was like Wednesday's buddy. Like, how does someone not cry over that?
Might I remind you that in the beginning, Wednesday did threaten to take off his fingers if he told a soul about what Wednesday was trying to do at school.
I mean, Wednesday threatens a lot of things against people she actually loves, though.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I will mention one other thing. So, and they actually used a joke in Wednesday that I've wanted to use for a long, long time. I actually came up with this joke. I never heard this anywhere. I've just always wanted to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But when they come across the Girl Scouts and they're selling cookies, and Wednesday says, "Are they made from real Girl Scouts?" This is something I have wanted to say for years, but just have never been emotionally void enough to actually do it to little girls. But every time I see them, that's the joke that has always gone through my head because they're Girl Scout cookies, and I've always thought to myself, "Are they made from real Girl Scouts?" And I've never said it. And then they said it on the show, and I'm like, "That's mine. That's mine."
Yeah. I mean, if you want, I know of a Girl Scout trope nearby where I live.
So I could ask the question.
I'd say go for it.
I almost did. We were at King Supers by our house, and they were selling Girl Scouts, and I was like, "No, I just can't. I just can't." I did say to Amy as we walked away, I said, "Yeah, are they made from real Girl Scouts?" And your mom was just like, "Oh, jeez, really?" So, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what else?
I.
How about the cinematography side of things?
Oh,
Kind of
gorgeous.
goes into sets, design, stuff like that, but
The lighting was really cool.
lighting was cool. Yep.
Lighting was very clever. There was one scene that I think maybe the cinematographer either wasn't paying too close of attention or just was not using his brain to the full extent. Pardon me. Seem to have a little indigestion. I don't know if you noticed this, but in the cracked stone tomb, you can actually see a floodlight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's right in the top corner of the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but at least for me, I noticed that you could see just a little bit of the, I forget what it's called, but I believe it's a light shaper. It's like a barn doors, I think is what it's called.
Those.
You can see
That's frustrating.
I would expect something that's a Netflix special of all things to be just slightly a little more high quality. And obviously, I realize,
you think they'd go over that and over that and over that.
yeah,
and over
notice
that.
it. But I mean, you miss things in post, and it
Yeah.
happens. But I don't know. I did notice that in the lighting aspect of it all. Other than that, I'd say the cinematography was outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. Some shows that we watch, they give me ideas about how good movies should be done, and I think Wednesday is one of those shows. There's also some shows we watch where I get a little frustrated with the cinematography and the way things are filmed. Discovery. No, don't get me wrong, we love Discovery from a Star Trek standpoint, but there's just a lot of nitpicking that we could do.
We love Star Trek.
Yes, we love Star
We
Trek.
love everything Star Trek, but Discovery is... Yes, anyway, we won't go back to Discovery for the 100th time.
If you want to hear more about Discovery, we have our first podcast, I think, was about this Star Trek Discovery. Is our first or second podcast?
It was our first.
Episode 1 or episode 2, I can't remember which one it is. We kind of rip it apart. But but if you want to go back and listen to that, then we'll have another Discovery podcast after season 5, is it? Season 5 is over, and that'll be the end of Discovery. So, anyway, this is not Discovery. This is a Wednesday podcast. So, guys, excited for season 2? Because pretty sure season 2 is coming out.
Actually, there's a bit of controversy surrounding that.
John's full of controversies.
You already know. There's a little bit of controversy surrounding that. Now, I am extremely excited for season 2 because as you've probably heard from other podcasts, other interviews, I need more Wednesday. Like, it is a good series. It is a good series. It's very well written. And it deals with a franchise that, in my opinion, isn't very touched on in frontline media. But I believe what had happened, why season 2 is going to take so long, is because I forget the name of the character, but the disturbed painter, he was found out to be assisting in a minor sexual assault case. So they're trying to find someone who either looks like him or rewrite the script and get him out of there. I'm not completely sure on how, but I do know that season 2 was postponed because of that.
Bummer.
I am excited for it, though, to say nonetheless, because the cliffhanger they left it off on really set up quite a bit and left it very open-ended.
Remind me, because it's been a while since I've watched it, what was the cliffhanger?
She got a text, right? And there was like... It looked at me very weird. She got a text from some people saying, "I'm watching you," or something. She's being stalked, essentially.
Oh, that's right now. I remember. Cool. Yeah, and it probably has something to do with maybe more that Raven Society or whatever.
That's what I'm going to venture to say as well.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Okay. Anything else, guys?
I guess justice for Hand. Brother put up with so much and barely got anything back.
Yes.
Hand. No, his name is Thing. What am I saying?
Hand.
Yes, Hand.
Justice for Hand.
Justice for Hand.
That's the new sticker. Justice for Hand.
Justice for Hand.
All right, cool. Okay, cool. Awesome, guys. Well, I think we're going to tie things up now, so you can get our podcast anywhere you download your podcasts. We're on we're on iTunes, and we are on Google Podcasts, and anywhere you can get your feed, we're out there. We do have a webpage, Anchor link, where our podcast is hosted, so you can get us there. We're going to hopefully branch out into more media sources where you can get more updates, but that's coming. Like, we'll probably have a Facebook page at some point, and maybe some other web pages. I don't know. I'm working on some of the more media side of things. So, and I've just been told that I have to get an Instagram page. Someone just mouthed that to me. So we'll have an Instagram page. Okay, cool. So we'll do that, and so maybe I'll get that set up. I'll put any kind of links that we have. I'll put them in the show notes so you can find us there. So thanks for listening. Thank you, John, for joining. We'll have John on again, I'm sure.
Yes.
John has to catch up on some of the things that we're watching. So, yeah, I need to catch up, man. So, thanks for listening, and we will see you later. All right,
Bye.
and bye.
Adios.